All right, welcome to today's episode of the Nurse Leader Lounge. I'm really excited to be spending time interviewing my co-host, Norma Tirado, and talking to her today. We're going to be talking about positive intelligence, which I really love. We've heard through the years all about, of course, IQ, and then there was emotional intelligence, and now even social intelligence. But I'm really excited to hear more from Norma today about positive intelligence. But first, we also thought it would be really fun to get to know the co-host of this new podcast. So I'm going to give Norma a little bit of time to tell you about herself and her background and her passion here that brought us to this point today.
Oh, thanks, Amy. I am so excited about this podcast and our opportunity to share with nursing leaders some of the knowledge and wisdom that we have acquired, and also learn from them. We'll have the opportunity to engage them in conversation at some other episodes. My background: I've been a healthcare executive for over 25 years. I have served both in the capacity of Chief Human Resource Officer as well as Chief Information Officer for several healthcare systems. And most recently, I started my own executive coaching business. And I focus on helping people develop their positive intelligence, which is, I think, a very, very key thing to develop if you want to be a really great leader for any organization, and a leader that people in your organization love and respect. So I'm super excited to be here with you. Amy, I have a doctorate in healthcare administration. So we've been, I've been around the block in healthcare, and I've
Yeah,
worked with many, many, many nurse leaders. I know the good ones and the bad ones, and we want to help our nurse leaders be the best that they
yes.
can.
Yes, 100%. That is why we're here. That's what makes us passionate about this podcast and talking together. So, I'm really excited to hear about this myself. Because there's so much out there about how do we become more intelligent in different ways. So, go ahead and tell us a little bit more about what positive intelligence is and how it can help us as leaders.
Yeah, so I would describe positive intelligence as a human operating system, right? And it's a system that helps us build our mental fitness. And by mental fitness, we mean the capacity to respond to life's challenges with positive rather than negative mindset. And in an environment where you're being thrown so many different things all at once, where it's so stressful, there's so much change, it is important that we learn how to respond to these challenges in a positive way, so that we're good role models for the people that we're privileged to lead. And it's based on research, and I've been fortunate to be studying under the author of this research, Dr. Shirzad Chamine, and I'm super excited about it. I think for me, even in the amount of time that I've been practicing positive intelligence, has been life-changing. And I
Mm,
hope that I can help others have a life-changing experience like mine.
That's excellent. I think it is so important because we all know healthcare has so many challenges right now. We were just talking about a few, and it's really become an environment of uncertainty in so many ways. So I think developing a way for us to respond in a positive way, and I think the other thing you just said, for those around us, how do we lift them up when sometimes all they can see is, this isn't working or that isn't working or I need more of this. And so how do we turn that around? What are some skills that you've learned along the way with this?
Yeah, so basically the research has indicated that our mind basically works in not so mysterious ways, right? There are voices in our head that often, because we're a primitive species, so to speak, that we have evolved from just having to survive, but our brain basically is just trying to help us survive. So it's trying to keep us from making mistakes, or keep us from danger. So the research that Dr. Shirzad Chamine conducted showed that there are a number of saboteurs in our brain. We all have like a big judge that tells us everything that we're doing wrong, and we
Right.
judge ourselves and we judge others. And then there's all these saboteurs. For example, for me, my top saboteurs are that I'm restless, that I'm a pleaser, and
Yeah.
that I'm a high performer and or a high achiever.
Yeah.
At first sight, you think those are great things,
Mm-hmm.
but what happens? Restless means I want to be doing multiple things at a time. So I have a hard time focusing on one specific
Yeah.
things, right? So
Yes.
I have to work really hard when I'm trying to accomplish something at being focused. Being a pleaser means I want people to like me. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that could lead to making the wrong decisions for the wrong reason. And
Mm-hmm.
also it can lead to disappointment when people don't um, uh, kind of give back the same way that I give to them. And
Right.
last thing, with high achievement, well, I am never satisfied, right? And that means that I judge my work very harshly, and I may judge the work of others very harshly as well. So building my mental fitness helps me identify those things, identify when I'm judging myself,
Mm-hmm.
and quiet those voices and find what we call the sage mindset, which
Okay.
is, well, where you are saying to yourself, you can do this, you can focus. And we show and give people literally physical exercises that they can do so that they can quiet their saboteurs and raise the voice of their sage mind. And I think what I love about this is that, a lot of us work out, right? You have, physical fitness. You got to get your walk every day, or you got
Mm-hmm.
to do your exercise, your yoga, or you got to weight lift. And we become very disciplined at that, but we don't exercise our mind. We don't do
Mm-hmm.
the mental fitness exercises that would
Yeah.
help us intercept the saboteurs, build up the sage mindset, and self-command us to stop thinking negatively.
Yes. I was listening to, it was a video clip that, popped up on my feed one day recently, and it really did. It's very much like what you're saying, and it hit me kind of hard. And as soon as you started talking about this, it reminded me of that video clip where it said, our inner voice is it's almost a spell you set on yourself, or those words that then you believe because your internal voice is saying it. So you've got to recognize those words and flip the script, because we don't give ourselves the same grace that we would somebody else. We become so harsh and so critical to ourselves, right? And we wouldn't do that to someone else. We'd say, oh, okay, well, here's how you could improve that next time, but this part was great. And we don't do that to ourselves. We don't become that sage, I guess, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, some people say, well, those things that you described may actually be good things, what's wrong with being a high achiever?
Right.
But, and isn't pain good for developing, resilience and strength? But I think what we'd like to teach to people is wouldn't put your hand on a stove and keep it there for
Right.
more than a second, right?
Yeah.
If you put
Yeah.
your hand on the stove and you feel like you're getting burnt, you're going to remove your hand. And what we're saying to people is some of these saboteurs, okay, so they show up, you recognize it,
Mhm.
you get the message, and you get out, and you have to you have to remove your hand from the pain.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of how kind we are to others, sometimes we're kind to others, and a lot of times we are intentionally doing that, even at times when our brain may be judging that other person, or they don't work hard enough, or they don't try hard enough, or they're not intelligent enough, because we do to others oftentimes what we do to ourselves.
Mhm.
But we may
Mhm.
mask that
Right.
by intentionally forcing ourselves to ask questions, et cetera, et cetera. And I think by forcing ourselves to, we're also building that mental fitness that allows us to stay in the positive mindset rather than go in the negative mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So do you want to give some examples of some of the exercises or maybe something that people can do to start, even identifying, oh, I'm in a saboteur right now, or how do people work through some of these?
Yeah, how about if I just walk you through a
Okay,
little, what we call PQ or positive intelligence reps.
sounds
All
good.
right. So
All right.
I'll walk you through a rep and you tell me what you think about it.
Okay.
So what I'd like you to do, Amy, is I would like you to close your eyes for a moment.
Okay.
And as you close your eyes, I'd like you to try to clear your mind of any thoughts at all that are coming into your head. I want you to try to create some blank space in your head. And now I want you to take some deep breaths. And now if you can take and rub two fingertips together. And I want you to rub those fingertips enough that you feel the ridges on your finger and just focus on feeling the ridges on your fingers. And now maybe you can rub all fingers from one hand against fingers of the other with enough pressure, again, that you feel the ridges on your fingertips. And maybe even extend it to the palm of your hands, feeling all the different ridges of your hands. And focusing only on what you're feeling in your hands. Now we're going to do some PQ reps focusing on sound. I want you to think about something that you can hear that's very, very close to you. Maybe it's the sound of the monitor in your computer. And think of nothing but that sound that you hear. And then I want you to think about or hear, listen for sounds really far away, as far away as possible. Maybe somebody's saying something outside of your office. Maybe somebody's playing music close to you. What do you hear? Just focus on that. Now I want you to take a very deep breath and let your air out. Take a deep breath and feel how the air feels coming into your nostril and how the air feels going out of your nostrils. Think of nothing else but your breathing. Now, when you're ready, open your eyes.
Nice.
So did that free up your brain?
Oh, definitely. I could feel just by concentrating on those different things and going, oh, I'm listening and now and walking through each step that pulled you back into the present in a way that if it were just sit here and breathe,
Yeah.
my mind would go to five different things,
Yeah.
right? But it was tactile and then it was listening and it was listening close and listening far, breathing. And so, yeah, I think my heart rate probably came down a good 10, 12 beats.
Well, and the thing is that imagine yourself sitting in a meeting and your staff, you're having to give your staff not so good news. And your
Right.
staff is reacting. They're actually probably getting hijacked by their own saboteurs. And as a leader, you have to stay calm and you have to stay collected, and you need to stay positive, and you are trying to do everything in the world that you can to do that. Now, you can't probably sit in the middle of the room and close your eyes and meditate. But what
Right.
you can do is you can rub your fingers together
Mhm.
just to remind you that you need to
Mhm.
activate that other part of your brain, because maybe your brain is getting hijacked and you're starting to think about, how do I respond? And if they start yelling at you, you may think about yelling back. But if you start focusing on, okay, let me stay calm, you
Mhm.
know, you can do physical things. You can, even by concentrating on, let's see, I can look at your eyes, or I can look at your nose or your mouth,
Mhm.
just to focus on something that will take your mind away from reacting
Yeah.
negatively to any particular situation.
Right.
But to build that, to build the ability to command our brains to switch, you got to do these exercises on a regular basis. You got to you got to do what you do if you want to stay in shape physically. To stay in shape
Mhm.
mentally, you have to exercise the
Practice.
mental
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that, yeah, like what you said at the beginning about it being part of that sort of flight or fight response. I immediately want to, when confrontation's occurring, we'll get defensive or explain it or make sure they understand. And sometimes that's not what they need in that
Right.
moment. So I think when leaders hone that ability to recognize their own triggers and responses, to your point, and calm themselves and say, well, wait a minute, what did they need right now? Not what do I need right now? And are able to respond in that way, that can be incredibly powerful,
Yeah,
for the whole team.
yeah. And part of what we try to teach when we're teaching positive intelligence is that every outcome or circumstance, any situation that you encounter can be turned into a gift, or an opportunity.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's just hard for us to see that in the moment.
Mhm.
Part of what we're trying to teach with positive intelligence is, how do I at least think, I may not realize this right now, but this situation may be a gift or opportunity at some point in time. And,
Right.
when I started my training, they asked us to think about, like, some of the worst situations that have ever happened to you in your life. And I had a hard time at first thinking, well, what good could have come out of that?
Yeah.
But when you really start thinking about it, you can find gifts on
Mhm.
anything that's ever happened to you. And if we can start thinking that way,
Right.
we approach every situation as an opportunity, rather than, you know,
Mhm.
this is a bad thing. And
Yeah.
that's
No,
part
that's
of
right.
that's part of embracing that, what we call the sage perspective.
Yeah. That reminds me of John Maxwell's book. Just the title, even, is, you don't fail if you learn,
Yeah,
basically.
right.
If you can take something away from it, even if it was like, okay, I wish I'd handled this differently, or I wish this had gone better, but what can I take from it? And what
Mhm.
can I learn so that next time I can handle it better or differently or in another way. So I think
Yeah.
that's really important.
Yeah. I think of my circumstance where I lost a job. And when I think about it now, I'm like, well, if I had not lost my job, I probably would not have learned about positive intelligence. I wouldn't have spent all this time studying and preparing for it. I wouldn't have
Right.
my coaching practice, right? So there are good things that come out of any situation if we're willing to open our eyes and look for them, and not
Yeah.
let our saboteurs hijack our brains and make us miserable.
Yeah. I completely agree. I look back at my career and I've had people ask me, well, how did you get into this? Or how'd you get into that? And I'm like, well, it was almost by accident because this wasn't necessarily on my 5-year plan, right? So it wasn't
Yeah.
on my 5-year plan, but I said yes anyway and thought, well, okay, that's going to challenge me. And I'll step out of my comfort zone and do this. And then it led to the next thing and the next thing. And I thought, okay, this has been really interesting. And I'm really glad I took that opportunity to, say yes to something, even when the reason I did was because something maybe bad happened
Yeah.
that left me open to that opportunity, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And part of what we try to teach in positive intelligence is when you're starting to feel a negative thought, just stop yourself
Mhm.
and ask yourself, what's which saboteur is in my head talking to me right now? How do I
Yeah.
turn that? And what can I do to turn the situation into a positive situation? And we're building mental muscle. We're getting stronger and more resilient. And I think that allows us to enjoy life more, to build better relationships, to be more successful in our careers, to be better leaders for our people.
Right.
Our people, they don't want, even if they go to complain to you,
Mhm.
they don't want to go into a negative spiral of thought. They want you to help them turn themselves around.
Right.
That's why they
Right.
come to you, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think if you embrace positive intelligence, you can be more
Mhm.
inspiring to the people that you're privileged to lead.
I think it's interesting you say that because, so many leaders, we approach things like interactions with our associates to say, well, they just need to vent. But
Mm.
the more I've been reading, Cy Wakeman and many other authors out there, that venting is actually not that healthy. And it sounds like, along with this positive intelligence thing, maybe part of what we need to do is, yes, solve problems, don't get me wrong, but is there a way to spin the spiral, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. You know, that I am working right now, I'm working with professional athletes. Particularly I'm working with a golfer, a professional
Nice.
golfer. If you think about a professional golfer trying to win a tournament, if they have a bad shot
Yeah.
and they get down on themselves, there is no way that the rest of the shots that they need to make to perhaps win the tournament or finish in the top 10 will ever happen.
Right.
So I say you want to say the F word
Yeah.
to vent? Yes, but you have 1 second to get out of that mode. You have
Right.
1 second and immediately you need to go to, I can do this. I can take, this is what I need to do to make not to make the situation worse.
Right.
And I think that happens to us, obviously in professional
Yeah.
environments, we want people to be, and they don't have to say it out loud, right? They can say it in
Right.
their, but you have 1 second. You have one second
Yes.
now, get out of that negative mindset and let's figure out solutions, right? So somebody comes
Right.
to complain, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
complain, give me the complaint. Okay, now what are we going to do about it? How do we
Right.
turn this into a positive? What are the
Yes.
solutions to this problem moving forward?
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to get our leaders to just that's the idea behind positive intelligence.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's just really critical. I tell my daughter who plays volleyball the same thing. Okay, that point didn't go well. Next point. You don't spend the rest of the game thinking about that point or that hit or that
Right.
serve that you didn't get right. Think about, okay, I didn't hit that right because of XYZ. So this time I can fix that. Next point,
Exactly.
So I love
Yeah,
that.
and the
Yeah.
best athletes in the world
Hmm.
they have to have that mindset, because if they
Right.
dwell on all the things they do wrong, they would never get to the level that
Yeah,
they get to.
absolutely.
If
And
we
it
want to be
sounds
the
like
top leaders in the
celebrating.
world,
That's
we have
right.
we have to be better.
Yes, yes. It sounds like celebrating what we get right is also a big piece of this, right?
I hear it's a huge piece of it. I don't think we celebrate enough as
Yeah,
leaders.
I
We don't
agree.
celebrate the little wins. And
Mhm.
I, you know, I think that there's a lot to be said about it doesn't take much to celebrate something that goes right.
Yeah,
Um, and we try to tell people, try 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1 positive to the negative. If you need to correct somebody, correct them. It's okay, but also tell them what they're doing right.
right.
Reinforce what they're doing right. to make
Yeah.
sure that they don't get too down. I mean, we all have judges,
Yeah.
and you don't want your people to get down on themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, celebration is a really, really important piece of this.
I agree. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you mentioned there's some research and evidence-based practice around this, and you've talked a little bit about who you're learning from. Is there anything else that you want to share around, what people could find out more about positive intelligence or?
Yeah, so this positive intelligence program is based on breakthrough research that was done by Shirzad Chamine, and he has a book called Positive Intelligence.
Okay.
And so if people want to read more about it, it basically it really is the basis for everything that we do in the positive intelligence operating system that we teach. And I think, what we try to do is turn those saboteurs into what we call sage powers. And the 5 sage powers that we teach about is empathy,
Okay.
empathizing. We
Mhm.
teach people about exploring. I think that people have to turn up their curiosity. And when people turn up their curiosity, let's say something went wrong. Well, let's turn up the curiosity. And rather than, oh, you did something wrong, is what went wrong? What can we
Yes.
learn from this situation? Like you said, with
Yeah.
failure, right?
Right.
Innovate is another sage power. Navigate is another sage power. Is about choosing from various paths, one path that could be
Mhm.
the saboteur path, the negative path, or the positive path. And then lastly, activate is moving into action, doing something about what it is that gets in the way of us, either having a positive mindset or accomplishing what it is that we want to accomplish. So this is solid research. It was years, and it was based on power factor analysis. It boils it down to the real, what's at the root of people's mindsets. And an example of power factor analysis, if we get down to the root of colors, we know that there are 3 primary colors, right? And all of the other primary colors, or all the other colors, are based on red, blue, and green. They come from those 3 colors, right? So what are the things in our mind that can create this positive intelligence? Where is our sage powers? It's our ability to intercept our saboteurs. Those are the things that are going to help us, and it's our ability to command our mind to change. And
Right.
so this power factor analysis came up with these 3 things, and that's what we base our teachings on.
That's awesome. That speaks to me too, because I will tell you, I had an experience where I didn't do the best job for a group of people and negatively impacted, me, but also them. And I remember sitting back after this occurred and I received that feedback and thinking, okay, that really sucked. Just to be really real, right? That really sucked. But what can I learn from that so I don't ever do that again to someone else? How do I meet them where they are? And it was that exploring, that sage piece that honestly led to one of the biggest transformations for me personally. And learning how to communicate better, how to connect better with people and not be completely task oriented, which is a very strong personality type of mine.
Yes.
And to twist that to say, I need to be more people oriented. So how do I catch that saboteur? How do I make sure that I'm thinking, what do they need? How do I communicate this, etc. But only because I was willing to take that negative experience and explore how I could do things differently
Yeah.
and spin that into a positive that honestly is the reason I am where I am today, because I took that chance to do that.
Yeah,
So
that is
that's
really
huge.
powerful, Amy.
Yes.
That's really
Yes.
powerful. And, I think about the world today and how often we disagree with each other, right?
Right.
The worldviews that can be so different. Imagine if instead of turning up the dodge in our heads when somebody's saying something to us that we don't agree with, let's just say I'm the leader and one of my team members comes to me and says, hey, I disagree with you. If my initial reaction is like, well, I'm the boss and you got to do it the way I do. Who wins there, right? But if I turn my curiosity and I explore, well, help me understand why you disagree with this. What can we learn from this situation? Open up our minds, listen, others, it's a new world.
Mhm. I completely agree. Completely agree. Well, I know we're at about the end of our time, so I want to make sure people know how to reach out to you to find out more about this. So, Norma has started the ICU Executive Coaching Program, and her website will be up and running soon. But in the meantime, you can reach her at N Tirado K at icuexecutivecoaching.com, and we will put that in the show notes as well so that you guys have her email address and the information that you want to reach out to her and find out more. And Norma, as always, it's so great to spend time with you and talk through stuff. I know we could probably spend hours talking
We
about
could be
these
talking for a
things.
long time, Amy.
That's
We have,
right. That's
yeah,
right. Yeah.
absolutely.
Well,
But this
anything you
is
want to wrap
exciting.
up? Yeah,
This is
no.
exciting, and I'm going to wrap up the way I typically wrap up my conversations with my leaders, which is I'm not committed to your comfort. I am committed to your grow. If you want to grow as a leader, you have to step into places that are uncomfortable, and developing your positive intelligence will help you do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And listen to us on Spotify, or you can watch the episode live on YouTube. Thanks for joining us today at the Nurse Leader Lounge.
Thanks for being